We are listening Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Talk 97 now. One Mr. Ramachandra, a gentleman from Ambala, asked where the heart is and what the realization is. Maharshi said, the heart is not physical. The heart is spiritual. The word Hridayam comprises of Hrid and Ayam. This is the center. It is that from which thoughts arise, on which they subsist, and where they are resolved. The thoughts are the content of the mind and they shape the universe. And the heart is the center of all. Maharshi then quote a shloka that said, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, that from which these beings come into existence is said to be Brahma in the Upanishads. That is the heart. Brahma is the heart. Then the devotee asked how to realize this heart master. Ramana Maharshi said, there is no one who even for a trice fails to experience the self, for no one admits that he ever stands apart from the self. He is the self is the heart. Devotee then said, Master, not yet clear. Then Ramana Maharshi replied, in deep sleep you exist. Awake you remain. The same self is in both states. The difference is only in the awareness and the non-awareness of the world. The world rises with the mind and sets with the mind. That which rises and sets is not the self. The self is different, giving rise to the mind, sustaining it and dissolving it. So the self is that underlying principle. Maharshi said further that when asked, who are you? You place your hand on the right side of the breast and say, I am. There you involuntarily point out the self. The self is thus known. But the individual is miserable because he confounds the mind and the body with the self. This confusion is due to the wrong knowledge. This elimination of wrong knowledge is alone needed, and this elimination results in realization. Again, the similar question was asked by the devotee that how to control the mind. It always wanders, I cannot control it. Maharshi said, what is mind? Whose is the mind? It is the nature of the mind to wander. You are not the mind. The mind springs up and the mind sinks down. It is impermanent, it is transitory, whereas your true nature is eternal. There is nothing but the self. To inhere in the self is the thing. Never mind the mind. Never mind the mind. If its source is sought or searched, it will vanish, leaving the self unaffected. So the devotee said, so one need not seek to control the mind. Maharshi said, there is no mind to control if you realize the self. The mind vanishing, the self shines forth. In the realized man, the mind may be active or inactive. The self alone remains for him. For the mind, for the body, and for the world are not separate from the self. They rise from and then they sink into the self. But then we just need to wait. We just need to keep, or we just need to contain the answers which rushes forth from the mouth when something happens around us. They do not remain apart from the self. Can they be different from the self? Only be aware of the self. Why worry about these shadows popping up and then sinking down? How do they affect the self? To understand what Ramana Maharshi is telling with each question and his answer, we need to listen to those things again. Every statement he is making, we need to take a pause and contemplate on it. Every question he is forwarding to us is actually solving our trouble. We just need to be aware deeply of what is being told to us. Talk 98 now. Sri Bhagavan further explained that the self is the heart is self-luminous. Light arises from the heart and reaches the brain, which is the seat of the mind. The world is seen with the mind, that is, by the reflected light of the self. It is perceived with the aid of the mind, and when the mind is illuminated, or when the mind is illumined, it is aware of the world and its nature. When it is not itself so illumined, it is just not aware. If the mind is turned in towards the source of the light, objective knowledge ceases and self alone shines forth as the heart. Maharshi said further that the moon shines by the reflected light of the sun. When the sun has set, the moon is useful for revealing objects. When the sun has risen, no one needs the moon, although the pale disk of the moon is visible in the sky. So it is with the mind and with the heart. The mind is useful because of its reflected light. It is used for seeing objects, and when it is turned inwards, the source of illumination shines forth by itself, and the mind remains dim and useless like the moon during the daytime. 99. A sannyasi asked, "It is said that the self is beyond the mind and yet the realization is with the mind. Mano na manute, manasa na matam, and manasaiva dampa, manasaiva damaptavyam." That is, the mind cannot think it, it cannot be thought of by the mind, and the mind alone can realize it. How are these contradictions to be reconciled? This was asked by that sannyasi. Maharshi replied, Atma is realized with Mruta manas, that is dead mind, that is mind devoid of thoughts and turned inward. Then the mind sees its own source and becomes that. It is not as the subject perceiving an object. When the room is dark, a lamp is necessary to illumine and eyes to cognize objects. But when the sun is risen, there is no need of a lamp and the objects are seen, and to see the sun, no lamp is necessary. It is enough that you turn your eyes towards the self-luminous sun. Similarly, with the mind, to see the objects, the reflected light of the mind is necessary. To see the heart, it is enough that mind is turned towards it, then the mind loses itself and the heart shines forth. Talk 100 now. Later, Sri Bhagavan quoted from Kaivalya some verses and explained. He explained, the supreme, that is, the knowledge absolute, the witnessing attitude, the self-shining core, and he termed the supreme as the heart and the self. Then underneath it is the individual, the Jiva, the knower consisting of vritti, the mood of mind stuff, and reflected light in the latent form. Then underneath it is the internal intellect and the outgoing mind, buddhi and manas consisting of vritti and reflected light as a sprout. This is the antahakaran, the inner organ. Moods taking shape as objects, and the common knowledge is under this antahakarana, and together they form the world as we perceive it. So he just explained a situation of realization, how things run in sequence. Likewise, he again suggested another situation, the self as pure knowledge, underneath the Jiva, the knower, underneath the intellect and the mind, that is pramana, modes seen as objects, and the knowledge phala chaitanya under this pramana. The modes of mind take shape as external objects, and the light reflected on the modes illumines the objects. Now, neglecting the modes of mind, look for the light illuminating them. The mind becomes still and the light remains self-shining. The undulating mind, that is the mind associated with the rajas and the tamas, activity and darkness, is commonly known as the mind. Devoid of rajas and tamas, the mind is pure and self-signing. This is self-realization. Therefore, the mind is said to be the means for it. Then he explained another situation. The content are same. He said, pure consciousness, this is said to be the eternal or ever-present witnessing bhava or the nature. Then antakarana, inner organ or the reflected light, the jiva. And then moods together with the light are said to be prameya, the known. Of these, the objects are gross and the light is called phala chaitanya. Then Maharshi explained in the Jiva, the inner organ, that is the antakarana, consists of the sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattva is knowledge and light. Rajas, the modes of the mind, intellect and the mind. And the tamas, the gross objects, the world. Similarly, he quoted the cosmic mind or the eternal being. The sattva, Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. Rajas, the individual jiva. Tamas, the universe. Then he said, Brahma equals Sat-Chit-Ananda. Sat means the being bhav called the Adhara, the substratum. Then comes the Chit and the Ananda. Chit means knowledge, Ananda, bliss. This also, both of them together, called as Vishesa, differentiated by Maya as the nature, natural, the universe or the world, artificial, multiplicity of the objects. Maharshi said, Maya cannot obscure Sat, but it does obscure Chit and Ananda, making them appear as particulars. That is, the rope was felt like the snake, but there was no snake. This is how the illusion arises through Maya. Sat being the Adhara, from this bhav of just the being I am proceeds the particulars. Then the Jiva, who veiled by ignorance identifies himself with the gross body. Once the reaction starts and once the witnessing attitude is left, here ignorance stands for not investigating the self. Jiva is in fact knowledge only, yet owing to ignorance, the wrong identity with the gross body results. Again, the master illustrated it with a red hot iron ball, tapta ayah pindavata. A ball of iron plus fire together form red hot iron ball. The world, along with the Chit, is the pure knowledge. Together form the Jiva, the individual. Remember, sometimes what Maharshi is telling cannot be grasped. In time, it will be understood. Everything is not for understanding. Being with the words of Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi is being with his presence. And this is Satsanga. Everything cannot be understood, but the result will come. Talk 101. A gentleman from Ambala asked that what is the rationalistic explanation of Draupadi's Sari becoming endless? Ramana Maharshi to this said, spiritual matters cannot be fitted into rationalism. Spirituality is transcendental. The miracle was after Draupadi had surrendered herself, and the secret lies in this surrender. Then the devotee said, how to reach the heart, Master? Where are you now that you want to reach the heart? Are you standing apart from that self? Ramana Maharshi said. Devotee replied, Master, I am in my body, in a particular spot or all over. Devotee said, all over, I am extending all over the body. Where from do you extend? Ramana Maharshi said. The devotee then said, I do not know. Maharshi then replied, yes, you are always in the heart. You are never away from it in order that you should reach it. Consider how you are in deep sleep and in the waking state. These states are also not yours, they are of the ego. The consciousness remains the same and undifferentiated all through. Then the devotee said, Shri Bhagavan, I understand, but I cannot feel it so. Maharshi said, whose is the ignorance? Find it out. Then the devotee replied, all this is so difficult. Maharshi said, the idea of difficulty is wrong. It will not help you to gain what you want. Again, Ramana Maharshi said, I ask, who finds it difficult? Inquire this. Devotee said, I see that I am coming round to the I. Maharshi said, because you're always that and never away from that. There is nothing so simple as being the self. It requires no effort, no aid. One has to leave off the wrong identity and be in his eternal, natural, inherent state. Talk 102. The same questioner returned with a request next day and said, Maharshi, that it is said that one should receive instruction from a guru. Mere reading of books are not helpful. I have read many books, but there is no practical help derived from such learning. Please tell me what I should do, how I should do it, at what times, in which places, and so on. The master remained silent. His silence seemed to say, here and now, be at peace and tranquil, that is all. But the questioner could not interpret it that way. He wanted something concrete as per his understanding. Though the master was communicating, you need to transcend your limited understanding. Go beyond your own clutches of the mind and understand what I am telling you. Think on these things deeply. Realization is not far, as said by Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. Let us pray He guides, which is happening actually. Transcend your limit. Give it a try. Erase all disposition of understanding and feel free. We take a pause now. Thanks for listening.